You are listening to the podcast on software testing. Welcome to this session. In this series of lectures, we will be covering the podcast and audio clip where we will be covering the basic concept of software testing that we use in our day to day life for testing several softwares. For the week one, we will be covering the concept of software testing, motivation regarding the software testing, software development life cycle, testing terminologies. It would be covered in two parts, and the automation with JUnit. In this session, we will be thinking about the Java as a base language since it has to be used for the object oriented programming. So, we will be using it as a language. So, what are software? Software are the applications that we use in our day to day life. Since we all know that software are ubiquitous, we use them in our daily life, we use them in sectors like finance, we use them for making calls, applications, e commerce, home, and building like Alexa, and various automations, process controls, healthcares, uh, transportation, social networking, toys, etc. We all know that such software has to be of very high quality, offer good performance in terms of response time, performance, and also have no errors. It is no longer feasible to shut down a malfunctioning system in order to restore safety. We are dependent on system for continuous functioning and consequence of failure can be disastrous. Some popular error in the software sector as described are Ariane 5. Ariane 5 rocket exploded in June 1996, 36 seconds after it was launched. The reason was software error. Exception occurred during conversion of a 64-bit floating point number into a 16-bit integer. Backup software also failed due to the same reason, and rocket failed due to the incorrect data transmissions regarding the altitude. Therac 25. A sixth patient died due to an overdose of radiation caused from Therac 25, a medical linear accelerator that is used to treat tumors. The reason is software error. The main cause of error was a race condition caused by wrong sequence of command in the control software operating the accelerator. Intel Pentium bug. Intel lost an estimated of 475 million due to a defective Pentium chip. The chip made mistakes while dividing floating point number within a certain range. For example, when 3145727 multiply by 4195835, the whole will be divided by 3145727 should return 4195835, but a flawed Pentium will return 4195579. So with this reason, Intel had to replace most of the 3 to 5 million defective chips in circulation. We all know that software is inevitable in our lives now. Error in software can cause lives huge financial losses or simply a lot of irritation. Many compendium and list of expensive software errors are available online. Testing is the predominantly used technique to find and eliminate error in software. It is estimated that more than 50% of effort in the software development industry is spent on testing and quality assurance. Software in this century. Embedded safety critical control software has to be tested with extra care to meet regulatory requirement. These sets of software are the software that we use in our drivings, automated autopilot, parking, enterprise software is a very complex since it holds large databases, critical server requirements, etc. Like Amazon application, e-commerce websites, web applications are available to more user need to be correct. Mobile application have to cater to the common man be available almost. Free software is also expected to be correct. Also, cost of testing. The cost of testing at the initial stages, like during the software development life cycle while developing a software during the requirement phase, it is quite negligible as it processes through the design, unit test, and integrated test, system test, and post deployment. The cost of the testing gets increased. Testing in software development lifecycle. Testing occupies a large part of the software development lifecycle. Agile methodologies instead insist on developers using testing their code thoroughly. Testing is not a tester job alone. It is the best if testing is an integral part of the every phase of software development lifecycle. Agile software development promotes these features. Many errors are coding error and can be fixed at the implementation stage, some even earlier, but if they don't, cascade down to later stages. There are certain facts and myths associated with testing. Facts. Testing can be used to find error in the software, cannot be used to show that a software is correct. This can actually be understood that soft testing is made for software, but its vice versa is not true. Software are not meant for to be tested. Testing cannot be replaced by software reviews, inspection, quality, and audits. Testing is a different part, and these, like reviews, inspections, are of different part. Another fact is testing cannot be fully automated, but it needs human interventions. By we can use number of software, automated software, but it requires the human intervention in order to test the software well enough. Some of the myth associated with testing. It is wrong to say that my code is correct and doesn't need to be tested. Another myth is testing cannot be used to show that a piece of code is fully correct. So, in the summary session, we have learned or described testing. Testing is an inevitable activity in software development. Agile development methodologies put additional stress on testing throughout development. Testing is an as old as software is. The goal of this course is to teach you software testing. Thank you. Software development life cycle. Software development life cycle is a term used by the software industry to define a process for designing, developing, testing, and maintaining a high quality software product, also known as software development process. The goal is to use software development lifecycle defined process to develop a high quality software product that meet customer demands. We all know that ISO IEC 12207 is an international standard for software lifecycle process. What are the software development lifecycle activities? It includes the initial stage with planning, then design and architecture, moving towards the coding, writing the bits of codes, and then move towards the testing. And the process will also take maintenance after the deployment of the software. Planning and requirement definition. What is a planning? Planning include clearly identifying customer and market need, pursuing a feasibility study, and arriving at an initial set of requirements. What are requirements definition? It includes documenting detailed requirements of various kind, system level, functional, software, hardware, quality requirements, etc. They get approved by appropriate stakeholders. What is requirement analysis? It includes checking and analyzing requirement to ensure that they are consistent, complete, and match the feasibility study and market needs. Typical work product. Requirements document of various kind. Project plan. What is the design and architecture phase? Design identifies all the modules of the software product, details out the internal of each module, the implementation details, and a skeleton of testing details. What is an architecture? Architecture defines the modules, their connections, and other dependencies, the hardware, database, and its access, etc. Design and architecture are hand in glove with each other. Usually, validation of design and architecture is done. Design and architecture documents or model. What is the development? This phase include the design documents, especially that low level design is used to implement the product. If the design document is good, code generation can be done fairly smoothly. There are usually coding guidelines to be followed by the developers. Extensive use unit testing and debugging are also done usually by the developers. Tracking is done by the project management team. So, in this phase, code and its documentation and the various test cases are developed. What is the testing? This phase involves testing only, where the product is thoroughly tested. Defects are reported, fixed, and retested until all the functional and quality requirements are met. Testing is a subset of all the earlier phases. In modern time, SDLC models, certifications, and accreditations, if needed, are also important activities that are completed at this phase. Test cases and documentation. Phase 5, maintenance, done post deployment of the product. It adds new feature as desired by the customer or the market. Fix error, if any, in the software product. Test cases from earlier phases are used here based on the needs, and this is called regression testing. SDLC model. There have been several different models proposed and used for implementing software development lifecycle. They are as waterfall model, V model, spiral model, incremental model, rapid application development model, agile model. So here we will be describing two of the models, starting with V model for software development. It is a model that focuses on verification and validation, follows the traditional software development lifecycle requirement, then goes with design, then goes with implementation, then testing, and then maintenance. For each phase, there is a direct mapping to corresponding testing phase. In case of a V model, we start with coding, and then before actually in case of a V model for software development, we just start with requirement analysis and move with system design, architecture design, module design in the vertical hierarchy, but with the same with the horizontal with the requirement analysis, we will be giving time to the acceptance, test design, and these followed during each stages. Agile software development. Currently, the most widely used software development lifecycle model is Agile. Agile methodologies are adaptive and focus on fast delivery of features of software product. All the software development lifecycle steps are repeated and increment iteration to deliver a set of features. Extensive customer interaction, quick delivery, and rapid response to change and requirements are feature of agile development. Agile model for software development. In case of our agile development for software development lifecycle, it includes different sets of iteration we uh, where we build our software in the sets of iterations where certain features are launched first and then the upcoming software launched in the phases with the upgraded features in the each iteration or the stages of development of that particular software. Each stages include the SDLC lifecycle, which includes planning, requirement analysis, designing, building, and the testing. Other software development lifecycle activities. It include project management, which includes team management, developing the project documentation that enhance traceability metrics as a document that links each artifacts of development phase to those of other phases, key to the effective testing or the quality inspection. Thank you. Software testing, terminologies and process. Part 2. Testing goals based on process maturity. Organizations tends to work with one or more of the following level. Level 0. There is no difference between testing and debugging. Level 1. The purpose of testing is to show correctness. Level 2. The purpose of testing is to show that software does not work. Level 3. The purpose of testing is not to prove anything specific, but to reduce the risk of using the software. Level 4. Testing is a mental discipline that help all it professional develop high quality software. Testing process. Level 0 thinking. Testing is the same as debugging, does not distinguish between incorrect behavior and the mistake in the program. Also, it does not help develop the software that is reliable or soft. Level 1 thinking. The purpose is to show correctness. Correctness is impossible to achieve. What do we know if no failures? Good software or a bad test? Test engineer typically do not have strict goal, real stopping rule, formal test technique. Level 2 thinking. Purpose is to show failures. Looking for failure is a negative activity, puts tester and developer into an adversarial relationship. Typically, many software companies are in this level. Level 3 thinking. Testing can only show the presence of failures. Whenever we use software, we incur some risk. Risk may be small and consequence unimportant. Risk may be great and consequence catastrophic. Tester and developer cooperate to reduce the risk. Level 4 thinking. A mental discipline that increases the quality. Testing is only one way to increase the quality. Test engineer can become technical leader of the project. Primary responsibility to measure and improve the software quality. We will deal with technical aspect of the testing that will help with level 3 and level 4 thinking. This course will help you write test objectives, define, understand how to plan and achieve coverage in code design and the requirement. Teach you algorithmic aspect of testing. Difference between controllability and observability. Two important concepts in software testing. Controllability. Controllability is about how to provide input to the software module under a test in terms of reaching the module and running the test case on the module under test. Observability. Observability is about how to observe the software module under test and check if the module behaves as expected. Module under test can be anywhere. Module method under test can be hidden deep in the code and may not accept any input directly. Thank you. In this lecture, we will be covering some terminologies related to software testing. It starts with verification and validation and testing. What are some of the testing terms? What is the testing classification? Different test activities. What is the software testing? The Wikipedia definition says software testing is the act of examining the artifacts and the behavior of the software under test by validation and verification. Here, artifacts means our code base. So, the software testing is the act of examining the code base and the behavior of software under the test by validation and verification. Software testing can also provide an objective, independent view of software to allow the business to appreciate and understand the risk of software implementation. As per IEEE STD 610, the International IEEE Standard Glossaries of Software Engineering Terminology. What is a validation? Validation is the process of evaluating software at the end of the software development to ensure compliance with intended usage. Checking of the software meets its requirement. What is the verification? The process of determining whether the product of a given phase of the software development process fulfill the requirement established at the start of the phase. Other related areas. Formal methods verification. Model checking theorem proving program analysis, modeling and simulation, software quality assurance, accreditation, test driven development. What is the difference between faults, failures, and error? What are faults? Faults are the static defect in the software. It could be missing a function or wrong function in a code. What is a failure? An external incorrect behavior with respect to the requirement or the description of expected behavior. A failure is a manifestation of fault when software is executed. What is an error? An error What is an error? An incorrect internal state, that is the manifestation of some fault. Historical perspective. The term bug and fault was used by Edison. It has been just so in all of my inventions. The first step is an intuition and comes with a burst. The difficulties arise. This thing gives her out, and then that bug as still fault and difficulties are called. Show themselves a month of intense watching, study, and labor are requisite. The term error was also used by Ada Lovelace. He is the first programmer who works with the Charles Babbage first computer machine. He said an analyzing process must equally have been performed in order to furnish the analytical engine with necessary operative data, and that herein may also lie a possible source of error, granted that the actual mechanism is unerring in its process. The cards may be give its wrong order. But in this course, we will be using the term synonymously. The fault, failure, error, bug, defect will all mean the same. What is a test case? A test case typically involves input to the software and expected output. When test cases are executed and result recorded, if the actual output matches the expected output, the test case is said to have passed. Otherwise, the test case is said to have failed. A failed test case indicate an error. A test case also contain other parameters like test case ID, traceability details. Types of testing. There are different types of or the level of testing based on the phase of software development lifecycle that they are applied to. First is unit testing. This is done by developer during the coding. Then integration testing. Various components are put together and tested. Component could be only software or a software and hardware component. System testing. Done with the full system implementation and the platform on which the system will be running. Acceptance testing done by end customer to ensure that the delivered product meets the committed requirement. Beta testing. It is done in a beta version of the software by the end user after release. Some additional types of testing are functional testing, done to ensure that the software meets its specified functionality. Stress testing, done to evaluate how the system behaves under the peak unfavorable conditions and inputs. Performance testing, done to ensure the speed and response time of the system. Usability testing, done to evaluate the user interface, aesthetics, etc. Regression testing, done after modifying, upgrading a component to ensure that the modification is working correctly and other components are not damaged by the modifications. Testing methods. There are two broad methods of testing. Black box testing, a method of testing that examines functionality of the software system without looking into its internal design or code. White box testing, a method of testing that tests the internal structure of the design or code of the software. Types of test activities. Testing can be broken in four activities: test design, test automation, test execution, test evaluation. Adjacent activities include test management, test maintenance, and test document. Test design. The most critical job in testing. Need to design effective test cases. Test cases that can find the error in the software. Apart from specifying the input, the involving defining the expected output too typically cannot be automated. Needs knowledge of basic algorithm, discrete mathematics, and the domain of the software. Part of this course will deal with criteria-based test case design algorithm. Test automation with JUnit. What is test automation? Test automation is the second step after test case design. Test case design need to be automated to meet the RIPR model requirement. Need to give prefix value towards a reachability and postfix value to ensure propagation. Test automation is the process of controlling the execution of the test, the comparison of actual outcome to expected outcome, the setting up of test conditions and other test control, and the test reporting function. What is JUnit? JUnit is an open source Java testing framework used to write and run repeatable automated tests. An instance of XUnit architecture for unit testing framework available from junit.org. A structure for writing test drivers. JUnit can be used as standalone Java program from command line or within IDEs such as Eclipse, IntelliJ, NetBeans, and Visual Studio Code. JUnit features assertion for testing expected result, test features for sharing common test data, test suite for easily organizing and running tests, graphical and textual test runners, test in JUnit. JUnit can be used to test an entire object, part of an object, interaction between several objects. It is primarily intended for unit and integration testing, not system testing. Each test is embedded into one test method. A test class contains one or more methods. Two tests include a collection of test methods to set up the start before and update the start after each test and before and after all tests. Thank you.